Welcome! Today we are going to crack open one of the most foundational concepts in all of Buddhist philosophy. But we're not just going to read some old, dusty definitions. Oh no, we're going on a linguistic treasure hunt using a pretty unique, multi-layered translation to find a hidden code inside this ancient idea. So let's start with a really big question. What if the common ways we translate ancient wisdom, the ways that seem so precise and academic, are actually hiding a much deeper, more dynamic meaning? What if we've only been seeing the surface this whole time? All right, our investigation is going to start with the final link in the chain of dependent origination. Now, this is a core Buddhist teaching that explains how literally everything, especially our own experience of suffering, arises in this huge web of cause and effect. We're going to zoom in on one specific Pali term in that chain that honestly seems almost too simple. Here it is, right from the source texts. This phrase, jati patsayaya, Jarāmaraṇam, is an absolute cornerstone of the entire structure. You see it repeated dozens and dozens of times in the Pali Canon as the final step in the chain of causation. And this is almost always how it gets translated. With birth as a condition, aging and death come to be. I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? You're born, you get old, you die, but doesn't that feel a little obvious? Is that really some profound spiritual insight, or is it just a basic biological fact? This right here is our puzzle. So to really understand this puzzle, we first have to look at the most common literal translation. Think of this as us putting on our modern translator hat. We're focused on dictionary precision, the physical world, getting it exactly right. So the term Jarāmaraṇam is actually two words, kind of smashed together, Jara and Maranam. And the old texts define them in a very, very physical way. Jara is described as, getting gray hair and wrinkled skin. Maranam is the breakup of the body, the end of life itself. It's a clean, precise biological definition. So, case closed? Not quite. Okay, now we're going to switch hats. We're taking off the modern translator hat, and we're becoming ancient linguistic experts. We're digging way deeper, past the dictionary definitions, to try and uncover the root code of these words as they were actually understood 2,500 years ago. This is the key question, right? Before these words got locked into a specific biological context, what was their broader, more fundamental meaning? To find out, we have to look at their linguistic roots. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The root of jara means to wear out. Like a piece of clothing fraying at the edges after you've worn it 1,000 times. And the root of maranam means to dissolve or to fall apart, like a building being deconstructed brick by brick. And suddenly, these words aren't just about bodies anymore. They're universal processes that can apply to anything that's been constructed. So now we have these two layers of meaning, the literal and this hidden root code. But how do we make that difference feel real? We're going to do it with a third layer, a visual translation. We're going to take these abstract ideas and make them totally click with some modern visual metaphors. Okay, first, let's just lock in that literal, surface-level translation we all started with. Jara means aging, the slow, biological process of a living body getting older. We all know what this looks like. Pretty straightforward. But that root code, it reveals something so much deeper. Jara isn't just about skin wrinkling. It is about the decay of any form. It's the slow, inevitable corruption that happens to any structure, any idea, any experience as soon as it comes into being. Let's put them side by side. On the left, you've got the familiar idea of a body aging over decades. But on the right, I want you to think of a high-resolution digital photo that over time starts to pixelate and corrupt. Or maybe an idea that was once so sharp and clear in your head, but now it's all muddled. That process of slow degradation, that is the essence of jara. Okay, let's do the second half. The first translation of maranam is simple. Death. It's an event. The moment a life ends. A flat line on a heart monitor? The end. But the root code reveals something way more dynamic. See, maranam isn't an event. It's a process. The dissolution of parts. It's that moment when any composite thing, anything made of smaller pieces, finally comes apart and just ceases to be a whole. The comparison here is pretty stark. On one hand, you have the literal meaning, the flat line. It's over. But that deeper meaning, it's like watching a complex, beautiful clockwork mechanism suddenly spring apart, its gears and levers just flying everywhere until it's nothing but a pile of components. The clock hasn't just stopped. Its very structure has dissolved. That's Maranam. So, we've uncovered this hidden code, this deeper meaning. But why does any of this matter? How does this actually change our understanding of the whole system? Well, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Here's exactly why this is a game changer. The common translation locks this whole process into the scale of a single human life. But our deeper translation reveals a process that's happening in every single moment of consciousness. Every thought, every feeling that you have is born. The instant it arises, it already begins to decay and lose its form. That's jara. And then it completely dissolves back into its components. That's maranam. This is the ultimate takeaway. This reframing shifts the entire idea of suffering from some far-off problem at the end of a long life to an immediate, constant, and really intimate process. This cycle of birth, decay, and dissolution isn't happening to you over 80 years. It is happening in you every single second. And that leaves us with a final, pretty provocative question. By just peeling back the layers of two little words, our entire understanding of a core concept was totally transformed. It just makes you wonder, what other ancient ideas, what other foundational concepts are we only seeing the surface of?